So welcome to Indian Support Center's online workshops. And today's topic will be on healthy relationships, on particularly talking about narcissism and narcissistic abuse in a narcissistic relationship, of course. And so a few things which I'd like to go through. So this program is being conducted by the Indian Support Center and located in 2 Lane Street, Wentworthville. We have been supporting victims of domestic violence from since March 2015 through our organization. And through these online workshops, we would like to bring the community together and discuss on important topics so that we can contribute on making a positive difference in the community through making a positive difference in our households. So to begin with, I would like to acknowledge everyone who has joined us. And I would like to just bring you to your notice that this session is recorded and may be used for our online social media platforms. So if you want to remain anonymous, I would request you to change your name. You can click on the option settings on your screen, and you can click on rename to rename yourself to any anonymous name if you would like to remain anonymous. And if you would like to not be seen on the video, you can disable your video functionality as well. However, I would like to request all of you to remain on mute so that the speaker can speak clearly, but we would at the same time like this to be a very interactive session. So if you'd like to contribute and talk, and you're welcome to do so, but just be mindful that we're going to have an interactive session, and there are quite a few people who have joined us, and to the best results, we should appreciate someone talking and not to interrupt them. And but do feel free to chip in and put in your hand up, or you can interrupt and request to talk as well. And saying that, I would also like to bring to a point that this session is to make a positive difference. So whilst we will be talking about some negative attributes to the abuse itself, I would like us to have a positive thought about this. So if any of us are providing any examples or references or of our experiences, I would like to leave out particular names because we are not going to do any kind of victim bashing or even the accused bashing because that is not the focus of today's topic. Okay, we are here to learn from our experiences. So let's leave out the particulars and let's leave out the names of anyone so that their privacy is maintained as well. But we can generally talk about what experiences we have so that we can learn from each other. Okay? And so what I would like to do is I would like to just start about the Indian Support Center. If you have any kind of domestic violence issues or family support issues, or if you know anyone who are experiencing issues in their household, you can refer the Indian Support Center to them. They can contact us on 0480-110-453 so that we can understand the situation and assist them accordingly. Most of the time what we do is we are bystanders and when we see an abuse happening, we don't necessarily either take it seriously or we think that why it is not my issue to deal with and turn a blind eye to it. I would encourage all of us not to do so because the victim themselves may not be able to speak out for fear of further abuse or whatever the circumstances. But we as the people who are witnessing it should take a stand at least and try to assist them in getting the help that they need. So let's go into actual people who are talking today. So I myself am one of the board members of the Indian Support Center. My position here is the secretary. I am not a doctor, I am not an expert in relationships, but what I have is a lot of experience through my own circumstances, as well as the people who we have supported over the last 3 years, and the many kind of issues that we are experiencing in terms of family support, etc. So we have a few more people like Jaspreet Ji today joining us. She works for Family and Community Services, and she's a family support specialist in Indian Support Center. So apart from her, we do also have Saryu Rao, Dr. Saryu Rao. She is a psychologist by qualification, and she is one of our family support specialists as well. But apart from that, we all here are talking on our experiences, which I believe experience makes us the master of all qualifications. So saying that, we will get into the topic today. So what I would like to ask all of you is, do you or anyone you know constantly being blamed for no fault of theirs, or are being lied to or manipulated to on a constant basis? And are they on an emotional roller coaster ride? When I say an emotional roller coaster ride, I'm talking about one day they are very loving, caring, affectionate, and the next day there is abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, or they are, taking you for granted, etc. Have any of you experienced anything like this?
I think what happens in the relationship when two individuals start living together, I think they take for a while to identify why the other person is different than what is expected, and then they really find it uh, almost initial few years to find out that there is definitely a personality disorders called narcissism. So can we just tell that what are the controlling factors when you say somebody is really controlling, and how do you really define? Is it a feeling of
Yeah,
uncomfortable? So let's talk about that and just get the views of what people really think, because definitely if the relationship is not really working out well, and then you take for a while, is it my fault? Is it something I don't know? Is it I'm trying to adjust? So let's really work out what is it that make people uncomfortable, and then put is it a personality disorder of narcissism?
Sure.
you're absolutely right, Sariji. The thing is, and I would also like to add, because for some people, it's very hard to start talking about it, right? So, because we've just started this session. Also, I remember that when we were growing up in India, this narcissism, like this is something we learned with our qualifications and later on, right? And actually, this sort of thing came in my mind when we came to Australia and even after working for so long, right? We had never even heard about these words, narcissist behavior. It was just people used to say, oh, this person is very controlling, right? Or this person thinks too much of themselves, right? So, but we did not identify behaviors. And now that we have reached a stage where people are, when they think, okay, like, is he always blaming me? He never takes responsibility. Or she's always lying. She's so manipulative, right? So this is sort of a behavior, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that, or people need to, and now people who have joined us can sort of look at it that, okay, uh, is this happening to me? What do I do about it? So.
So, good questions, Jaspreeti and Sariji. So we will talk about these things in depth as we go on. There's a few slides to go through. So what we'll do is, for the purpose of everyone's understanding today, and thank you for the person who's joining today. So we have already started, but what we've just started though. So we're talking about narcissism. Not everybody knows about narcissism. Okay, it is a term, all right. So let's talk about what it actually means. It is actually from a Greek myth of Narcissus, a metaphor of self-absorption and an inability to love. So basically, it is defined as somebody who is self-obsessed in themselves more than anyone else or anything else. It's all about them. And that is the typical trait of a narcissist behavior. So in that, some of the personality traits you can see is self-care, self-esteem, and then positiveness, assertiveness towards them. And they need to secure themselves their status of self-preservation, which is to understand that they are the one and only that they need to be worried about, and needed for self-sustainment as well, so that they want to progress in their career. It's about their growth, everything. And so this is typical narcissistic behavior, but doesn't mean it's a wrong trait, because there are people who use this as well to grow in their careers, in their lives, and take it positively by having the self-esteem and wanting to be the best version of themselves. So it's not a completely a bad behavior. It is just that the definition of narcissism is self-obsession. Okay, when what happens is, if there is a huge spectrum, right? So there are extremes of this case. So there are people who like themselves, who self-love, which is all important. It's actually a positive trait. But then what they do is they go to the extreme end of it, which is becoming so obsessive about it that they do not care about anyone else for that matter. So that is when it becomes a psychological disorder and affects the person who are around them as well.
That's
So,
right.
Jaspreet, you want to add something to it?
No, that was, you're spot on, because it is like, in parts of it, it's really important. It's a positive trait, as you mentioned, right? But when it becomes obsessive, that is when, as long as we love ourselves, that's very important, right? That I'm beautiful, I'm very nice, I'm this, right? But when we start using it against another person or being over manipulative, that's when the dangers come in. So, yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jaspreet. And I have a question from a person titled SS. And I'll just read out the question for everyone's understanding. They say, I was just wondering if you can help in, one of my friends is experiencing nepotism and grouping against her within her cultural community. Also, the other people are spreading false rumors about her. How could you help in this? Okay, so thank you for your question, SS. Would you like to come on the phone and talk about it, or you're okay for me to, discuss the question on your behalf? I'll just give a minute for SS to see if they want to talk, but if not, we will proceed. Okay, so I'll take it that they're okay with us actually discussing this on their behalf. So just to rephrase what they have said, they have an experience where one of their friends is experiencing grouping against her within a cultural community and spreading false rumors about her. Okay, so this kind of behavior can be characterized by bullying behavior, especially whether it's a workplace environment or in a social environment where they become targets. Okay, and it's actually victimization in a way as well. So they're finding some reason to target them and talk about them, and maybe you're saying they're spreading false rumors, right? So this is the situation, and how do you deal with the situation is the question here. It definitely has to be dealt with, but the best step to deal with it is first to acknowledge that what they're going through is wrong. Okay, because accepting something which is going wrong and continuing with this will not help. So the first step is to acknowledge, first of all, you are acknowledging that she is experiencing this, probably she's discussed this with you, which is a good step. Talking about it is the first step. And then to understand that it is wrong is the next step. And then the further steps would be to how to address it. If it is in a work environment, there would be some procedures within themselves to see how, usually what happens is they actually talk to allow the person to talk within themselves and bring them face to face, make them sit down and express how they feel when such an issue arises. And even in a common household or in a social environment, the best way to deal with it would be to face it by talking to the person who is talking about them and saying that, look, I just want to have an understanding that this has come to my attention, or I'm experiencing that you are talking about me without no basis. I would like to understand what is the basis of this. Is there something which we can talk and maybe understand and clarify so that this doesn't happen again in the future? So addressing head on is one of the ways you can handle it, but not everybody has the courage to go and handle it as well. In which case, you can always approach Indian Support Center to discuss more about the circumstance, and because knowing about the issue in detail will actually help solve the problem as well. So if you'd like to encourage your friend to contact the Indian Support Center, we are most welcome to understand what their problem is and then assist them accordingly as well. Does Jaspreet or anyone want to add anything here? Sarayuji?
I think what is so important sometimes actually, is it affecting the people involved in that situation? And it is so, then have you identified and confronted that person? We need to really find out that. And then sometimes it is really good idea to find out the intention of that person. Why is he doing what he's doing or she is doing, Sometimes it is just a habit, because they are the oldest in the family, or maybe the family context you have to really see. So they always had their own say, and then they got away with it. And then they try to do it with their friends too. So is it something, the setting up the equal platform in the relationship where one has to really create a space for the other person to feel comfortable? That is what I think is important, because the such kind of issues, why it is raised, because they are certainly not feeling comfortable to be together, because somebody is trying to control, somebody is trying to bully, somebody is trying to sidetrack, somebody is over demanding the attention. So I think it's find out the intention why the person is doing what he or she is doing.
Sure. So we will discuss again this if we have time, but we'll go through a few more things which we need to understand about narcissism, because narcissism is a specialized kind of an area which we are focusing on today. Nepotism, just to let you know, nepotism is favoritism, right? So that is a different topic, but we'll try to cover it if there's time. So just moving on, what I would like to elaborate on is the narcissistic traits. So let's talk in a little bit more depth about narcissistic traits. What are the normal behaviors like? Okay. So the first thing we talked about is self-centered. So it is about them. They're constantly talking about them. They're thinking about themselves. The focus is entirely upon them. But that's okay, because we all need to take care of ourselves as well. But when it comes at a compromise of neglecting others who they are with, that is when it becomes a problem. Another one is sense of entitlement or superiority, which means that because they are always thinking about themselves in a positive frame, they are thinking that they are the best, they are so powerful, and they always are right, they're self-righteous. They think that they're better than everyone else, including the people who are with them, okay? Which is how it can start affecting the people they are with, because the other person will be like, okay, am I not good enough? Because I've always been seen as second best kind of thing. Another one trait is lack of empathy. Empathy is basically feeling compassion for others, okay, including your own people as well. So if a person is saying that, I don't care how other people are, as long as I am fine, that is where the lack of empathy comes. The next trait would be to exhibit manipulative or controlling behavior. We did talk about controlling behavior, Saryuji was talking about. So what is that? So when people, they want to be in that relationship, but they want to make it about themselves as well. So they want to have the cake and they want to eat it too. So what they start doing is to entrap the person they are with, they start controlling them. They start showing their power. They use their emotions to blackmail them. And how an example of using emotions would be, and they will change it into a victim as well. They'll be like, why are you doing this? Am I not good enough for you? Okay. So they'll try to trick you into gaining empathy for them, whereas you will be the person who's actually needing it, but they will be transferring that energy back to them. Okay. And they may also become jealous in a relationship. So say, for example, the partner is successful, or they get an acknowledgement or a compliment, either from a fellow person or at work. And they come and share that with the partner and say that, look, I got this achievement. And they'll be like, oh, okay. So you think it's a big deal? I would have expected this of you always. So why are you making it very special? So by even saying that, they're putting the person down. They're not acknowledging what is happening here. Okay. And one more point is a strong need for admiration. So a person who today, in today's digital world, we see a lot of people taking selfies all the time. Okay. It's okay to take pictures and share it with your family, but there are people who are so obsessive that they will only take pictures of themselves and they'll share it, and they'll seek admiration, and any compliment which they get, it will be the highlight of the day for them. But if they don't get attention, that is when they will start behaving differently, and they will take that aggression on somebody else who's near them. Another point is difficulty taking feedback. Usually any of us, even normal people for that matter, when you are given feedback, especially a negative feedback, we do take it a bit, hard at times, but there is a way of giving feedback as well. As long as it's constructive and it's going to help the person become better, that's fine. But what they would often do is they would not accept any kind of criticism which comes their way, and they will not admit wrong at any point in time. It will always be like, no, it's not my fault, it's your fault. You are the one who did the wrong thing. So it will always be a blame game kind of a scenario. The last point is easily wounded. What they will do is, as I mentioned earlier about empathy, they will turn it upside down, the situation. So they will make the situation, say for example, you are feeling bad about the relationship, etc., and they will make it into that they are the ones who are being missing out on the relationship, they are not being loved. So when they keep saying that, the other person would start feeling empathy, because they are normal people, right? They would be like, okay, I need to, maybe he is hurting inside, or he or she, so why don't I show the love and companionship so that he becomes better? So they play this game. So these are the normal traits of a narcissistic behavior. Have any of you come across any of these examples in your experiences? Not maybe personally, but through any friends or family or cases that you have dealt with?
I can just describe one of the cases I handle actually. Husband, we took for a while to understand, because of course he was smart, good looking, charismatic, and then his wife, when she started working, obviously she would share her experiences with him, and then he sort of give her a lot of advice, lot of sort of instructions, the way she should be in that office environment, where he never been to her office, he never known her boss, whatever. So all the time people, I mean, she wanted to tell her, tell him about her experience with his boss, with a boss and office environment, whereas he wanted to take control of her work and her office environment. And I was just, I told her not to discuss anything with him anymore, because he is wanting to do the job in your office environment the way he's visualizing, being in control. But in office environment, the teamwork, it is you have to really see a lot of dynamics. So this is another thing, that people who are having personality disorder, NPD, they often try to be controlling of how she should be working in office environment, and oh, you are at fault, you, so no, the fact is he keeps saying you are at fault, you should do this, you should do that. No, because the way she would like to approach her work environment could be different than what he is outside of his environment is visualizing. So this is one thing. He like sort of he likes to see the way she should work in her office, where his training is different, his context is different, where her training is different, and the way her approach to work is different. So this is once again, I think, is NPD behavior, you know.
Right. So very good point. An example, Saryuji, because from what you're describing, I can see that this person is not able to understand they are two different individuals at the end of the day. They have two different individual circumstances. They are two different individual lives to lead. Okay. But what they're doing is they compare, constantly comparing, right? I'm like, I'm better than this. I'm able to handle this better, whereas you're not able to handle this better. Your circumstance is different, which is not as good as mine. So when this constant comparison back and forth, a sense of caring nature is missing. You're not caring, you're not empathizing with the other person, and you're not able to put yourself in those shoes and think from their perspective how they would be feeling. Right. So we often do this at times, and as I said earlier, narcissism is, in fact, there is a study which says that most of us, if not all of us, are narcissists in a way. Okay, it is just that when it goes beyond control, when it becomes obsessive, that is when it becomes an issue. So
the
this
fundamental question.
Well said. Well said, Prajay. Well said.
Go on.
Yeah, the fundamental question, I think, are they born or are they made? I think what I personally feel is we all go through the development phase from child to adulthood to the living together in a relationship in a different environment and all. So setting up the boundaries, if as a child, if I would have thrown a lot of tantrums and my parents would not have set the boundaries, then I always had it my own way, and I was the queen in my house. And then I expect that behavior as the different stages of your life is not going to work out.
Yeah. So very good point you raised, Sarojji. You asked a very important question. Are we born like this, or do we develop ourselves like this, or we become like this, right? So it is a study which goes on, it's happened for so many years. And so I'll just talk about it. So let's go into the next slide while I explain that.
I agree with you too, Sariji. That was a very, very good question. Right? I just want to make a point before we go and before you do this presentation project. The thing is, like a lot of times we get confused because when you're a single child in India, right? People think, oh, you're spoiled. There's a difference in being spoiled and difference in narcissist behavior. That's all. I just wanted to make a point.
Right. No, it's good. So my understanding of narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, so that we are now getting into medical terms. Okay, so the excessive narcissism becomes a personality disorder. Okay, so it is in fact a mental health issue for that matter. And when you ask the question whether we are born like that, there are some cases where it is a characteristic of their personality. Okay, personality is usually developed over a period of time through the experiences we have, through the education we share, and the people we meet, and the hurt which we go through as well. Some of the people who exhibit narcissistic behavior are people who have been victims of narcissism in their previous relationship as well. Sometimes victims go on to becoming perpetrators as well over a period of time. So there are studies to show that there is a small percentage of these kind of mental health issues which come through genetics, but most of it is through their experiences, bad experiences, good experiences, or the way their mindset is. Because fundamentally people who are, say, right-brained or left-brained, it depends on whether they are fantasizers or whether they are factual people. So there are some medical reasons behind this, but often it is something which can be developed over a period of time, which brings to the point, yes, it can be treated whilst it is brought to attention and taken care of. So let's talk about personality disorder. This is just a self-reflection slide which shows that what are the traits which swing us between a normal person and a narcissistic personality disorder person. So on the left-hand side, it shows characteristics like unselfishness, you're helping others, your healthy habits, being realistic, being honest, being integral, being responsible, being showing equality, showing fairness and justness, and showing support, showing good communication, being mindful, being kind, caring, and full of empathy. These are all positive traits, right? And say, for example, even because we work in a volunteer organization, right? Including our board members, including all the volunteers who work for us, each and every one are volunteers, okay? There are different reasons why they might be volunteering, but at the end of the day, they have a common goal, which is to help others. So that is a very good trait to have. Typically, narcissistic people wouldn't have that nature in them. So that is a key identifier to find out whether a person is really narcissistic or not, because they will not care much about others. They will not allow themselves to be part of philanthropic work. They will not go and do charity work. So those are the traits which can easily identify one person, but it's not everything as well. So what personality disorder people will normally do are demonstrate selfish behavior. They will also show that they are obsessed about themselves. And when I say obsessed, we're talking about unhealthy obsession as well, which is the extreme form of obsession. And then one more trait is being denial always, because when you go and tell them, hey, I've noticed something about you, can we sit and talk about it? They will be like, what are you talking about? I am fine. I am healthy. Is something wrong with you? I think a problem is with you. So they'll change the whole topic about you, and they will leave you to a stage where you are questioning yourself as well. I would like to give an example at this point in time. Okay, it's a personal experience of mine, nothing to do with a particular person. But in one of my experiences, say for example, that person has having a conversation, okay? And in that conversation, they say, hey, what are we cooking today? Are we going to make idli, say for example? And that person says, why do you want to have idli again? We only had idli yesterday. Okay. And this person responds back and says that, well, what are you talking about? We had dosa yesterday. Okay. And this person responds back and says that, what are you talking about? You've forgotten already. We had idli yesterday. And this person is like thinking, no, I'm pretty sure we had dosa. So why are you changing it and saying that we had idli? And she's like, look, I think something is wrong with you. I have been noticing you for a while. You know, you're forgetting things very easily. I think something is wrong with you. I think we need to go see a doctor. So when a person talks with so much conviction and assertiveness and is able to lie so much that they actually believe their own lies, the person who is actually on the other end starts questioning their own mental health as well, because they will be thinking, hey, did I really have idli or not? So that is where it becomes very, affecting the person as well. So it goes beyond a particular, it's not just an argument. It's passive aggressive behavior where they change the whole thing about you and they emotionally manipulate you and they confuse you to a stage, leaving you questioning yourself and your self-worth. And so that's just one example I wanted to share. But beyond that, showing disrespect, being irresponsible, and as I said, playing the blame game, lying constantly, and the earlier stage I was talking about, there's also something called pathological liars. Pathological liars are someone who constantly lie for everything, and they live in a constant state of life. The facts are a fantasy world for them, and they believe in their fantasies, and they believe in their lives so much that even if you question them, they wouldn't agree with you. They would think that that is the truth. Another factors are showing inequality and mindedness and being unkind, careless, and lack of self-empathy. So these are the traits which will identify whether a person is actually a narcissistic personality disorder or not. So does anybody want to say anything before we proceed? And we would like the session to be interactive, so don't be shy, because and I'll tell you one more point as well. The whole reason why we are doing this topic of narcissism is the previous healthy relationship topic we talked about. We had a few people come on board and was discussing their family support issues, and they actually wanted to know more about narcissistic behavior because they felt that they were going through a relationship like that, and they wanted to see, to understand it better and how to deal with it. That is the reason why we are bringing you this session. So please feel free to contribute, interact. If you're shy to talk, you can always chat on the comment section. And for those who have joined, in the last 10 minutes newly, I would like to just reiterate this call and session is being recorded and may be used for our social media platforms. So if you intend to remain anonymous, you can change your name to an anonymous name through the settings option that you see on your screen. And if you do not want to be seen on the session, you can disable your video, and you're welcome to talk and unmute yourself and talk if you need to, okay? Because we do encourage interactivity. So saying that, does anybody want to say anything before we proceed? Does anybody have a question? Okay, so I'll take that. We can proceed to the next slide. Okay. Okay. So now we are getting into narcissistic abuse, which is the essence of what we are talking today. Because earlier we were understanding what is narcissism, we were understanding what are the traits and behavior of narcissistic people. But now we are actually coming into the crux of the matter, which is the abusive cycle. Okay. And abuse, I just want to say, abuse is of many kinds. People normally think abuse is just physical abuse. Any other abuse is not abuse for them. Some people even don't think that. But it is not that it has to be a physical abuse for it to be an abuse. Emotional abuse is an abuse. Financial abuse is an abuse. Sexual abuse is an abuse. And social abuse is something which has recently come up. And even digital abuse is an abuse as well, where people stalk, people follow people online, and they do put remarks online. As what you mentioned, SS, in your question, about nepotism, and they are doing the blame gaming. This blame gaming may happen over online social media platforms as well. So they might go and post an article about this person, and this affects the person invariably. So this is a form of abuse as well. So let's talk about narcissistic abusive cycle. So what happens is, in the the beginning stages. The beginning stages is courtship. Okay, in a relationship, of course, you have to meet the person, and in that time, what they do is they do a lot of compliments, they flatter people, they flirt with them, they give you gifts, they appreciate you, they understand that giving you kind words is going to make you feel special. All the sweet talking and showing that you're kind, because it's not that they don't understand what is kindness, it's just that they don't want to show it. So what they do is they try to demonstrate all these things, and even that they're doing to show that they are the better person. They know that they're capable of recognizing your positive traits. So they're showing that, hey, I am so good that I am actually seeing the good in you. So they try to impress you. And this is typically what happens, which is they impress you to a stage where you are caught in the trap. So you start to become the victim. Okay. And then once you're in the relationship, so a typical behavior is also like this. Any normal relationship usually starts like this, which is expected. But then that is where the transition happens. Normal people will continue to do this, may go up and down in certain levels, because over a period of time, love changes in any relationship. But in normal behavior, it goes up and down, but it always comes back to a normal stage. But then what happens is the transition is when they start changing. Okay, they start understanding that you are now caught with them, and there's no more need for them to make efforts in this relationship. So what they do is they demonstrate their narcissistic behavior. They say that they start playing the blame game. They start accusing you of not being good enough. They might even say, there was one case which happened, which we discussed recently. What that person said is they went into a new relationship, and they loved this person so much that they were willing to do everything for them, and they appreciated that affection and care which was shown to them, and they started loving them back and fell for them. And then once the relationship progressed into a live-in relationship, they said that everything started changing, because that person wasn't complimenting them anymore. They were not taking them out anymore. And they were saying that, hey, you used to look beautiful, now you are looking ugly. What has happened? You are not taking care of yourself. So slowly it started changing. And this person, because they are accusing them and they are showing that they are the ones who have actually changed from how they were, they start questioning themselves as well. This is what we have been talking about. So they go into the actual narcissistic abusive cycle. And what happens during that stage is you feel devalued. You were once the most beautiful person. You were the nice person which they wanted to spend time with, but now it's become opposite. You are the one to be blamed. You are the one who does all the faults. You are not good enough. And so all these things devalue the person. Okay, that is the devaluation stage. And then what happens is when you realize that this is happening and you start taking a stance, what they do is they try to come back to you, and they either discard you by saying that, look, I don't want this relationship. I want to end this relationship. But then what happens is when you start talking about leaving the relationship, this person who is the victim, who is also seeing the good side of them, don't want to leave them. They are attached to them. They are addicted to them. So what they do is they're like, hey, why can't we work it out? I didn't want you to leave. It's just that I want you to stay in this relationship. Okay. And when they go and start chasing the person, or the narcissistic person, what they then start doing is they start showing the love and affection, and the sweet words start coming back again for a short period of time. So then this cycle continues, because what they do is they know that they are on a leash. They know that they are entrapped in this relationship, and they know that regardless of what they do, this victim will go back to them and plead with them for coming back into the relationship. So this forms a typical narcissistic abusive cycle. It is a very vicious cycle. There needs to be a break in this for the person to actually come out of this. So this is the narcissistic abusive cycle. And before we continue, I've had a question from SS again. You know how you address the issue. To solve the issue, we have to talk to the person spreading false rumors. But what should we do if the person doesn't pick up the phone? They are doing such things because they are more popular and have strong contacts. Also, these kind of issues also happen in schools, office, in public, etc. So what could we do if we are unable to contact the person spreading the rumors against you? Okay.
I can answer that, Prajay. I think what is so important is it something that are you craving to have that person as a friend? It is so important that even the person is not wanting to be in your inner circle, still you are ringing up, clarify why is it so important that we need to really, because sometimes it's really helpful if take a message out of it. Okay, that's fine. I can't be controlling her behavior. If she doesn't want to call, good luck to her. Let her spread, because ultimately she's spreading the rumors. But then, why are you falling in the trap of that rumors? You don't, because you simply ignore, leg glance. That's fine. Let her talk whoever she wants to talk. But is it affecting you emotionally? And if it's so, then you need to really be very strong and say, no, I'm not getting affected with whatever she does. That's fine. I can't control her behavior or her emotions, but I can control mine. So that's the way probably you can address that behavior.
Sure. Thank you, Sariji. It's a very good point you have made. I would like to just add on top of that. You made very sensible points. So just to reiterate what a few points you said, one thing I've always believed in, we as human beings spend a lot of time in worrying about things which may or may not happen. We start worrying about what other people talk about us. We start worrying, what will happen if some people start believing in the lies which are being spread about me. We cannot really control what other people do in their own world, in the way they do it. And by actually us trying to get into it, the first stage will be to try and contact and see if you can bring it to a closure. But if they're not contactable, etc., then as you said, Saryoji, we should not fuel the fire. Okay, because by going back and acknowledging that you are being hurt, it is bothering you, you are actually fueling the fire, and you are actually making them continue this habit. See, I always say this with due respect for all human beings and with due respect for, of course, animals. This is what I actually say. When you walk in the street and you see a dog barking at you, a very small dog, the small dogs are the ones who make the most sound. So they keep barking at you, okay? And they're showing vicious teeth, and they start barking at you, and you are going past it. What do you normally do? I ignore it and I walk past. Because what else can you do? If you start barking back at the dog, then something is wrong with you. Okay. So we need to understand that we need to put our efforts and attention in positive things, which makes a positive difference to us. By spending a lot of time on the negative behavior, we are actually wasting our own time. We are actually affecting our own mental health and well-being. So these are good things to say, SS, but I can understand your question. So if you would like the person to contact us, we would like to talk in depth about what the problem is and what we need to do. There are several steps, including approaching the officials, we can definitely put an end to this if that is what you want to do. But we need to have a one-on-one session so that we can make this happen. Yes, Jaspreet, go on.
Yeah, sorry to butt in. And I didn't want to, when you mentioned about the example you gave about the dog, which was a very good example, like you gave an example that you would go away. And I just wanted to talk about another behavior, which a lot of people, right? So if there's a small dog barking, sometimes they're so cute, someone will stop, right? And start sort of, trying to pacify them. And that's another way of, a lot of people get caught up with narcissist people, so because they're so sweet, they're so attractive, right? Without realizing that they could be damaging their life. Just a point.
No, very good point. Actually, it actually ties up with narcissism as well, as you mentioned, because when you feel that,
That's
you
right.
start
Yeah.
empathizing with the dog, right? You start
No.
empathizing. Why are you barking? Maybe
Yeah.
you're not being paid attention to. Maybe you haven't got food. So maybe I'll be the nice person and I'll come
That's
along
right.
and I will cajole you, comfort you to make you, better. But then if it bites you back in the, then that is where it becomes a problem. Okay. So good point.
So what is so the message we get, present Jaspreet, out of this is we need to really draw our own boundary. What is acceptable to us and what is not acceptable, right?
Correct.
Because if it is really bothering you, is it worthwhile having that relationship, that friend? Because any relationship or friendship, why do we crave to have? Because that brings in the comfort, psychological well-being, making us happy. That's why we have because we all are social animals. We like to have friends, to be with the people is therapeutic. We feel happy about it. But if that source becomes the reason for unhappiness, I think we have to let it go, because that is really affecting your peace of mind. You can't let anybody shake you up that easily that you find you spend lot of time to find the solutions. Rather, that time you can daily spend time developing the good other friends.
Yeah. Very good point, Saryuji, which brings me to the next topic. We have talked enough about understanding what narcissism. So let's talk about what to do, how to deal with the narcissistic relationship. For anybody who is experiencing this, I think this is one of the topics which will actually help them to do something, right? So you hit the nail on the head, Saryuji, and I can promise everyone, you have not seen the slides, but you started by saying you should set your boundaries, which is exactly how you should start dealing with a narcissistic relationship or a narcissistic person that you're with. And when I say relationship, it can be with your boss, it can be with your domestic household partner as well. Okay. So when we talk about boundaries, what does it boundaries mean? You need to draw the line. You need to say what is acceptable behavior, what is not acceptable behavior. You need to open your mouth and speak. Communication is the key here. If you do not draw the line, how do you expect the other person to know where the line is, where the limits are? So drawing the line, setting the limits, setting the boundaries is the most crucial element of this. So the next point is be on alert for instances of gaslighting. Gaslighting is a term which is used in the psychological area, where it is a constant cycle of emotional roller coaster ride, whereas they will show you the love and affection, they will be very pleasing to talk to, etc. So much so you will start loving them and getting attached. But then they will go on to going the extreme stage where they show the narcissistic behavior, and you will feel so down that you will want to leave them. And by the time you want to leave them and they become alertive that you're going to leave them, they come back and show the love and affection which you're caught up with, so that you are caught up in this constant cycle. So you need to be aware constantly whether the love and affection they are showing you are real or a manipulative behavior to get you back into that cycle. That's the second step you need to deal with. Another one is ignore what they do. This is what we talked about in the previous section, where we said if a person, and it relates to SS's question as well, what do you do when somebody is constantly behaving in this fashion and you are not able to do anything about it? What you then do is, if you have made all efforts to deal with it, and if nothing is working, then you need to start ignoring what they do. Okay? Because what is the worst thing which will happen is, by you going and giving them attention, you're fueling their need to constantly do it. Because if you stop doing it for some time, they are not going to get the emotional pleasure of you constantly going back to them, they have nothing else better to do. They will leave, and probably they'll go and try and find a new victim. Okay. So we should start ignoring as well when it's required. The next point is, we should realize that they won't likely change, which is what Saryuji was mentioning. We need to come to a point in time when we have exhausted all options. And I'll be the first person to tell you that Indian Support Center is somebody who constantly believes in keeping families together. Okay, we do not want to break relationships. Relationships are very hard to make, but once you're made, it's even more harder to keep it, and it takes effort from both parties. But just for the sake of a few issues, we shouldn't compromise and leave the entire relationship. So we try and work out where we can, and we should leave no stone unturned to make sure that we have made all the efforts. But if we have made all the efforts and the person is not changing, then we need to accept the fact that they won't change. Okay, because acceptance is the key to progress, whether it's an issue with ourselves or with anyone else for that matter. The next point is set limits during contact times. So if you're constantly talking to this person, it is an addictive nature from your part as well. So if you're not, you can set the limits without placing blame or shaming the other person. So rather than saying to them, hey, you are doing this, I'm doing this, it's not working out, and going into an argument, you need to understand that they are some person who is their behavior is like that, and they are often going to blame you. So you need to understand that you need to set certain limits during contact times. The next point will be to accept that your needs will not be fulfilled by this person. This is a very common thing where in any relationship, expectation becomes a basis of any relationship. So why do we need a partner? Okay, we need partner for physical needs, for emotional needs, for financial needs, etc. So when some of them are being fulfilled and some of them are not being fulfilled, and we have made all the efforts of seeing whether it works, then we need to understand that this person may not be capable of understanding us, may not be capable of fulfilling our expectations. And either you may need to come in terms with your expectations, or you may need to understand whether. And we're talking about do not accept the narcissistic version of the person you are as a person. So narcissistic will make you feel ashamed of who you are. So they will turn it back on you. They will insult you, and they will belittle you, and they will make you feel unworthy of yourself. So just because of, say, the person SS was talking about spreading the rumors, right? Just because they spread rumors, does it make it a fact? Because in my own experience, I've realized truth will always prevail at the end of the day. Truth will come out. It may take some time, but if you don't fuel it, if you don't contribute to it, sooner or later it is going to go away. And sooner or later, if you are a good person, that is the image which will be reflected in the long run. And for people who believe in false rumors and who believe in something which is being said without actually getting to know the person, is somebody you don't need in your life anyway. Okay, you need to be surrounding yourself. That is what the next point is. You need to surround yourself with people who can give you an honest perspective of yourself and to make you understand what you're doing is right or not. So typically, you need to have a support person to talk to. Okay, whether it's your friend or a family member, you should be at least truthful to them. Because if you're not being truthful to the person who is exhibiting this narcissistic behavior, you should be in a position to actually advise them that what is right and what is wrong. But typically what we need to do is we need to come to a realization, if they are this person, if they are exhibiting this narcissistic behavior, it can be treated. Okay, first step would be to acknowledge the issue. Second step would be to talk with them to see if it can be worked out. And if not, we need to come to a realization that they need help. Maybe you're not the right person to give them the help. So we suggest you to take counseling. We suggest you to seek a medical professional and to get some assistance on at least even finding out whether they are exhibiting this narcissistic personality disorder or not. Because at the end of the day, it is a medical issue. It is a mental health issue. So you need to get it diagnosed first. So that would take some effort. It would take some cooperation on the person as well. But if you can bring them into an understanding that they need help and it is affecting you at the end of the day, and it's going to affect the relationship in the long run, and you want to save the relationship, you make the effort to seek professional help. Okay. And the last step would be, if you've made all the efforts and if it's still not changing, even medical professionals are not going to help, or if it's an extreme case of personality disorder, which is hurting you so much, you need to have one question in your mind. Why do you have to continue this? Okay. So maybe you need to put an end to this relationship as well. So that would be the last stage. We don't want you to go through that. But however, a time would come where you need to decide what is good for yourself. And if being in that abusive relationship is going to hurt you in the longer run, you can try to make the effort to see if you need to end the relationship as well. Okay, so these are the typical points which we need to go through and addressing narcissistic behavior. Does anybody have any questions, comments, experiences that you want to share with?
Yeah, I think that the lesson we learn from this session, Prajay, that be yourself a natural person, the way you have been brought up, the way you like to think, the way you are, the way your upbringing has been, the value system given, and be natural, comfortable. But if you really feel discomfort, then raise an alert and then see. But unfortunately, at the time of our birth, we have not been given a rule book where how we can live the life. So lot of time it's going to be a dealing with the situation. So in that dealing with the situation or living day-to-day life, operational life, you have to be a comfortable, happy person. If that creates a discomfort and unhappiness, dissonance in your mind, then I think that's where the alert should come. And then you should really see the pattern of the behavior and seek a professional help, because there will be a fine line between the pathological control and the normal control. So you have to really, probably you need external help to identify that where is the boundary, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. By experience and by shared talk therapy, you talk to your friends and no, this is happening, this is normal, this is not really normal. Identify yourself, but if you are not able to do so, get an external help to seek some support, and that's where I think Indian Support Center can be helpful, because our primary motto is keeping families together. World is beautiful, make things beautiful, and you feel extremely happy in a whichever way life you are living in.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Sariji. And also, Prajat, this presentation was really, really good. And I know that I don't want to put the positive point in here is that, yes, people who are listening, I'm sure you know these points anyway, because the ones who are living with someone who is a narcissist, right, it can be really difficult. I also acknowledge that it's not easy. We can say that you need to do this or this, these are the symptoms, this is how you can handle it. People who are living with that, it's not easy for them, because you have a lot of other pressures. You've got family pressures. When you say that I want to leave, the family comes and says, no, because you're going to bring shame to the family. So remember, all those things are there, but please remember, you are more important. Your life is more important. Your happiness is more important, right? Because other people don't know what you're going through. So when you need help, as Saryu and Prajay mentioned, get some help, right? So whichever form you want to take, right? Whether you want to go to friends, whether you go to friends who are supportive, right? Not that friends who tell you, no, this doesn't happen, or it's okay, it happens to everyone. No, it doesn't happen to everyone, right? So, or you need professional help. When you realize, please go for professional help. Australia is one place where professional help is available. If you want to talk to Indian Support Center, come to Indian Support Center. If you want to go to mental health or health department, they are there. If you want to go to counselors are there. Like last time we had mentioned about Cynthia's 3 hours. Well, those people are there as well. So please remember those things. So, okay.
Thank you.
I'll pass it on.
I have one question from one of our audiences, and question or statement, which I'll read out. My daughter has gone through all this in India. It has come to the point that she is on the verge of divorce. All options were exhausted. and they thank for helping me to understand the situation fully. So thank you, first of all, for your feedback there. And we are sorry to hear that it hasn't worked out for your child. And what we would like to say is, if anything we can assist with, we are more than welcome to look at it and maybe understand the circumstances. If there's anything which we can do to salvage this relationship, we do offer mediation as well, and we can see how we can assist. But I think even if you are not trying to say it, from what I can interpret, if you as a parent, excuse me, sometimes what happens is parents don't understand what is happening between the couple, okay? And maybe it's a new relationship, and you are actually questioning your child as well, and saying that, what did you do wrong? Why did this happen? And maybe you start blaming your child as well, because who else can you blame? You're not going to blame the son-in-law or daughter-in-law. You're going to target the easier person who you have a relationship with. And maybe you are not able to understand why it came to be the way it ended up. So this is what Jaspreet ji was mentioning, and sometimes it becomes difficult because of social stigma. It is a taboo to have a divorce. It is taboo to come out of a relationship. So what happens is the person starts putting up with it. They start putting up with the hurt, and it hurts them in the long run, and they suffer a lot. And sooner or later, they are going to do something which is drastic. We don't want that to happen. So whilst we say that keeping families together is important, so is keeping your own self-respect, keeping your freedom, keeping your safety, keeping your health and well-being. Okay, so it is important to start if anybody, and first of all, I would like to thank all the audience members who have patiently listened to this session. We actually are encouraged by such participation, and we will have a recording of the session posted online for any offline viewing if you need to. We encourage you to share this with any of your family and friends to see if it helped you. It can help someone else as well. Maybe you're not in the situation, maybe your friend is, maybe your neighbor is, maybe your colleague is, maybe another person is going through this. Do share it with them, maybe because as long as it helps at least one person, then we would like to continue bringing to you such sessions. And in a fortnight or so, we will come up with another topic. And if anybody wants us to bring up a topic in detail, we want to talk about something which is affecting your family or healthy relationship cycle, we're more than happy to bring that session next to you. Saying that, I would like to thank all the participants and for your contribution and for your participation today. And unless you have any other questions, we will end the session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prajit. This was really good.
Thank you. This is the person moving forward.